Job, Part 9, Forrest Fishing. Do you want my advice? Yes, of course you do, otherwise you wouldn't have taken me on the job. Anyways, what I think is, we should find and take care of those mysterious lurkers first. That, or at least find out who or what they are and why they're trailing those useless idiots. What Broadham described was advanced invisibility, the same what your cloak is capable of, and trust me, I know my magic gear. What other stuff may they be packing under their cloaks? It will be better to tackle them first than get pancaked between a bunch of useless and some unknown group of invisible, probably well-armed individuals with indiscernible goals. That was a sound plan. Even if those lurkers were competition or sent by one of Rem's enemies to take him out, he could at least retreat if they proved too tough. Rem spent the rest of the day to carefully plan all eventualities, or at least those he could think of, at this moment in time. When evening fell, he and Felk had already traveled half the distance between that hidden clearing where the useless loitered about and the area which Broadham's scouts claimed they've seen the lurkers. That was also the meeting place where he had to inform the backup from which he'd paid so handsomely for his plan of action. The eerie evening force was full of little deaths ready and able to make the unfortunate or unwitting traveler into their next meal, although with his level of skill and equipment, they were not a problem. Beautiful as it was, the greeting was just as deadly. Not as dangerous as the old forest, yet still, one could easily meet their doom, had their luck run out and they faced an ancient beast or even a remnant from previous Rift Horde invasions. Those chaotic, all-devouring monsters were incredibly dangerous and often mutated, completely changing after they've eaten some of the mysterious magical denizens of the old forest. Thankfully, they safely reached the small pond where they were to meet Brom's warband. Not even one of the many dangerous animals dared to attack them. Some sages theorized that throughout the millennia, magical beasts had adapted their hunting patterns to the presence of powerful adventurers. Whatever the real reason was, Rem was thankful for the short, safe trip into the forest outskirts. Both he and his floating friend took a good look at and appreciated the almost serene patch of greenery growing around the crystal-clear pond. The 6 deadly marksmen, armed with arcane muskets, were well concealed, and even he had to look a second time to locate them. Smiling behind his metal skull mask, Rem muttered quietly his ally's password, which, incidentally, was the same phrase the stocky dwarf used to activate his prized magical map. Fresh fishy fish, 100 wriggling little fishies in a fish basket. The 6 hoods slid out of their hiding spots, rifles in hand, still wary and ready to do battle. One of them ran a magic ring across his chest. He was checking if indeed Rem was Rem. This was correct, and certain body and image-changing spells were commonly used to assume the identity of one's allies. Rem had, in fact, done the same on certain occasions and murdered more than his fair share of naive fools who assumed that he was their party member or ally. After the shooter was satisfied with what his ring told him, they guided Rem to their concealed temporary camp. The magic tents were set up under one long dead, giant tree, yet nobody actually slept in them. Like everything done in his line of business, the tents were trapped, and instead of resting hoods, each contained different sets of deadly traps. The marksmen themselves were holed up under the tree's roots, in a hollow which formed after the plant had stopped walking. Although Rem was feeling a bit uneasy, he followed them in. Nobody knew for sure what drove those deadly plants to migrate, nor why they outright attacked certain people and spared others. Nevertheless, he and Felk enjoyed the Hood's hospitality for this evening and shared rations with them. The second day of his job's time limit, 1/9, was now spent. He had 7 more to complete Countess Lavoie's request, or poke the dragon's ass, as his friend had so colorfully mentioned earlier. Hoods, and especially those of them who became marksmen, were the silent type. Indeed, he'd met some after that job he did sometime earlier in his career, but none were as professional as these 6. All of their equipment was top grade, especially their arcane muskets, which were immaculate and looked well maintained. For close-range encounters, each Hood carried their broad punching sword and turtle shield combo. The sword was akin to that ancient punching dagger, yet its blade was twice as big and wide. The weapon had a well-protected handle, with a half-plate glove covering the wielder's hand. They used it together with a turtle shield, which was again fathered by another old as a city item of war. The buckler was shaped as a turtle's carapace and worn over the left forearm. The marksmen even used it to stabilize their musket and place the gun in a groove they fashioned in the shield's side. Its bulged surface was designed to help glance off blows harmlessly, and indeed one of the items he always desired to possess, yet was unable to find one. Perhaps after this job was over, he could pester Broadham and ask one of his master blacksmiths to fashion one for his arsenal. He chased away the thought of future item requisitions and concentrated on the here and now. "What do you think of our plans, boys?" asked Rem, after laying out his lich's idea, and studied the Hood's face, as they exchanged some of their secretive hand signs. One of them plainly shrugged, still holding the rifle trained at the entrance of their camp. While they ate, there was one of the marksmen who was always aware and ready to shoot at anyone who walked past their traps. "That'll be a good idea, Master Solver of Problems. One gotta ask, what by the vortex are those mages or them obnoxious nobles always sneakily transporting around our parts of the forest?" Another one of the Hoods mumbled while munching on a piece of dried fish. "You gotta decide how we're gonna do it too, boss. The usual gig would turn out like that. You be sneaking with your sword drawn, cloak shrouded with invisibility magic, and after you stab one of 'em, they would, of course, pencil you. Then we shoot 'em all sneaky-like, and in them backs." Certainly, that was a good idea, yet those lurkers were perhaps not to be taken lightly. "Nah," chimed one of the other Hoods, who disassembled his musket and was diligently polishing the already squeaky clean weapon. His face was obscured by a bushy, milky white beard, and one of his eyes was an alchemist's prosthesis. Indeed, that old elf almost looked like a wizened sage, if only you removed the gun and healed the multiple decades-old, well-pronounced scars, of course. "Master Rem, you say with us, boys. He's got that awesome old bow, if he ain't gonna shoot deadly accurate arrows. And 60 paces, was it?" Rem could only nod, agreeing with the old marksman while Felt chuckled. Floating above his head, blue mana forming a halo around his helmeted, protected face. As always, the Lich stood silent when actual battle strategy was discussed. He was a magician and alchemist, not master of war. We should be better concentrate our firepower, boy, and shoot a volley at them lurkers first. When they take them out, survive in melee again, together with Master Ram. Methinks we'll be in trouble if we do anything else. That too sounded well, and came from the mouth of a hood veteran shooter. That case, if anything unexpected happened and their mysterious enemy had more magical items, they could at least protect their behinds. Indeed, Rem spent a couple of sleepless nights thinking about marriage and kids. Though for that to happen, he'd have to protect the family jewels, so to speak. It was far better to stand together with those veterans who, despite being expert marksmen, were very competent warriors too. "Why, Master Rem, you can have some trick shots with the bow of yours, right?" asked another of the hoods, the youngest of them, who was still sporting clean, beardless, and scarless boyish visage. "Yes, I can do some special shots with stake. Shoot 2 arrows at a time, curve shots, point blank, punch shots too. What do you have in mind?" You say here, we could be found out about the lookers, boss. Then you, still sneaky, shrouded by that cloak of yours, move about point blank range, and shoot 'em in their asses. They'd be coming directly at us though, Master M, so you gotta be fast, real fast like. The rest of the marksmen gave their youngest number slightly confused, worrisome looks. Seems he rarely spoke, and even when he did, he uttered very few chosen words. The old veteran elf scratched his beard, looked at Rem and then his youngest shooter with a strange, almost happy smile on his grizzled face. "Well then, that too is something we can do, right, boys? There was always one who paid the bills, ordered the music, am I right, boss?" His alchemist-made eye looked to the side and his companions, while his else natural one was still inspecting his arcane rifle. Sneaky bastards. These hoods were always full of surprises and very capable, but was that something he could successfully pull on his own while they were battled in melee? Rem was quick, indeed he was very fast. Wonderfully dexterous, some called him. But that is something we're going to have to find out in the next installment, once it does come forth. We're going to have to wait a little bit, I suppose, till number 10 is ready. Well, I think we can all wait patiently while the author of this particular tale is finishing up his 5th, or is he working on his 6th book now? Hard to tell. He's very busy, and he does work fast, but we'll have to wait and see. I hope you're enjoying this. I know I am. Till then, I think it's about time we move on to our other projects. Well, I think I'll leave it right there. Have a wonderful night, and God bless, and farewell. If you've enjoyed this telling, then please consider subscribing to this channel, liking the video, and sharing, as that would help this channel grow exponentially. Also, give a little support to the writer and author of this tale, Aragmar, also known as the Black Knight, listed down below. He can be found on Minds.com and is selling books. Star Shatter, a sci-fi novel, found on Amazon, also linked below. With that, I want to thank you for visiting. Have a wonderful night. God bless, and farewell.